you guys ever played the anus game?
Oh my gosh.
Is that where you see how far your finger can go?
That's a anus game, but the anus game is movie titles, and you replace a word with the word anus. It's a game kids can play too, because the word anus is fine. If you play the ass game, that's not for the little ones. That's for the grown-ups. But we're for the great minds for the children. So we'll play the anus game.
Okay,
yeah. Like.
Abraham Lincoln, vampire anus.
Yes.
You've got anus.
Okay.
The dark anus.
The thin red anus.
The anus in the pinstriped pajamas?
Schindler's anus.
Star Wars Episode 7, The Anus Awakens.
Episode 4, A New Anus.
Episode 5, the Empire Strikes Anus.
Let's start at the beginning. The Phantom Anus.
Yes.
Attack of the Anus. Revenge of the Anus. A New Anus. Revenge of the Anus again.
No. It was Empire Strikes Anus.
Empire Strikes Anus. Yeah,
Yes.
Sorry. Then
Revenge of the Anus again. No, it was Return of the Anus.
how do we fit anus into Jedi?
Oh, Anus of the Jedi. We could do that one.
Okay. And then the Anus Awakens.
The Anus Jedi.
Yeah, the Anus Jedi, and then
The Anus of Skywalker.
yeah, perfect.
Or it could just be The Last Anus.
The Last Anus.
Instead of
That's even better.
No, that was the Passion.
the Passion of the Anus. The Anus of the Christ. The Passion of the Anus.
No.
Oh boy. Oh. Well,
That was fun.
Yeah.
Let's do that
Yeah.
That was
again.
good. Yeah. We'll do it later. Let's do a podcast now. Hey everybody, I'm Dane Holland, and men in black suits are coming to remove me from existence.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer, and Thor had sex with his sister.
I'm Marcus, the hopeless fanboy known as I Am Electric Man.
I'm Austin Tiny Zent, the world's leading rainbowologist.
And you'll see all the colors of the rainbow here on the podcast, Nerded Through the Grapevine, where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And 'tis the spooky season, yes?
I would agree that it is the spooky season. I mean, it gets dark way earlier,
Right,
and
which is scary.
And that means I have to go outside way more often,
Which is scary too. There's also a bear been sighted like around these parts that makes it very scary for me
Where?
at night.
I want to pet him.
Very near.
So you are all aware of bears?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we all are aware of bears.
Yes, bears are real, unlike birds in Finland.
But werebears. That's a story for another day.
Well, werebears actually were in a movie that is a Russian superhero movie, but we haven't talked about it.
Okay. Oh, we will at some point.
Yep.
But today we're going to talk about a video game that never existed. Maybe there might be a Mandela situation here going on, or it could just be an urban legend. Have you ever heard of the arcade game called Polybius?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Donnie, you have?
Yes.
Bosto, have you?
No.
No?
No.
Polybius is an urban legend concerning a fictitious 1981 arcade game. And I'm taking all this from Wikipedia because they did a great job collecting all these sources like they normally do. Yeah, so apparently it was a government-run, crowdsourced psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon.
Say that one more time. I need to wrap my head around that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. My phone's now on mute.
We haven't had your phone go off since we were at the old studio.
That's
fantastic. That's a good stretch, though.
The timing was kind of good, though.
That was really good.
That was like theme music timing.
Oh,
well, I
perfect.
blame Dane because that was a text message from him.
Huh? I didn't text you.
Yeah, said you still coming to the podcast.
You just now got that?
I just now got that.
Literally an hour ago.
I know. My phone's jacked up, man.
Oh, all right. Marcus, let me explain this to you.
Please.
Apparently, the game Polybius, am I saying that correctly, Tiny? I've never heard it said before.
I believe so. It's been a while since I've
could have
heard
just
it.
looked it up. Well, it's spelled Polybius, Polybius. And apparently, Marcus, you ready?
Oh, no.
This game was apparently a government-run crowdsourced psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon. And the gameplay of it was like intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the players that supposedly played it. And let's see, all the arcade cabinets that were made of it, which apparently there weren't many, if any, they were visited periodically by men in black, not to be confused with the alien fighters, or could have been, for the purpose of data mining the machines and analyzing these effects that they had on the players of Polybius. So apparently this game that is maybe fake, maybe not, whenever people played it, there was some like crazy psychological effects going on with those playing it. And it completely disappeared from the arcade market, like entirely, according to legend. And apparently this is a pretty popular legend thing for video games, probably the most popular urban legend in video games, because it's appeared in like other media and stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a lot of subliminal imagery within the game itself?
I can't find an exact like someone saying what the game really consisted of as far as imagery goes. Like it's just like it's such a myth that the cabinet even existed that like no one knows what was on it.
I'm picturing like Donkey Kong.
Like just Donkey Kong? Like
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 1.0.
Something like Donkey Kong.
And wait, what year did this come out in, supposedly?
When I see that monkey throwing those barrels, it does something.
I just want to keep going.
Yeah, I can't stop.
Okay, but you said it was a psychological experiment.
Apparently.
Well, that seems like it could solve it, though.
What do you mean?
Well, because we don't really know what happened or if it was even real, but it's like, well, you have information in front of you that says this was all of a psychological experiment anyway.
No,
so that seems to answer kind of all the questions.
Right, kind of. But yeah, the video game itself was supposed to be a psychological experiment. But the myth of it has turned out to kind of be one instead. Right. Okay. You're like, that's a good connection.
I've already solved it.
So it was apparently, and as I say all these quote unquote facts, like I don't want to keep saying apparently or supposedly, so I'm just going to say these things as though it were real.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind
let's
of
pretend.
Yeah, let's pretend that it is all real because it might have been. The game was really popular, like to the point of addiction, to where lines of people would form and like fight over who could play the game next. And at this time, like early 80s, early mid 80s, like there were a lot of like arcade cabinets. Like a lot of people were playing a lot of different games, and for one to take over everyone's attention to line up and fight each other to play would be a pretty big deal. Players supposedly suffered from a series of unpleasant side effects, including amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations. And approximately 1 month after its release in 1981, Polybius is said to have disappeared without a trace of ever existing. So it caused all those things to happen to people after they played it.
That was also known to have seen like a woman crying out of the corner of their eye and be able to like hear her like moans and wails.
Spooky.
This is spooky.
Yeah, it's October, so I wanted to bring this up.
So that would induce people to have a crying woman in the peripheral vision. It would induce them to hear her crying, and it would induce the sounds of large aquatic mammals.
Nausea, vomiting, suicidal attempts, night terrors.
Paresthesia due to obduration.
Possibly that if they sat for too long.
The company named in most accounts of the game is Lotion. It's a German. It's like a pseudo-German word. It's not really a German word, but it kind of means sense delete or sensory deprivation. If you take like parts of that word in German and put them together, the words derived from sin, which is senses, and lotion, which is to extinguish or delete. But it's not an actual German word.
So wait, when I rub lotion on my arm, I'm extinguishing or deleting things?
Well, yeah, like not smooth, silky. I don't like lotion. Lotion makes me feel slimy.
But
yeah, thank you.
Sin lotion, on the other hand, is something your body produces naturally.
Correct.
It is just it is something that just, I mean, it comes naturally. It's all it is.
Apparently, sin lotion does come naturally.
Okay,
you're right.
It gets sticky though.
Polybius is actually a name of a Greek historian born in Arcadia.
I was about to say it sounded like a Greek figure.
It is, and being born in Arcadia, arcade cabinet. I mean, come on, a little on the nose there. And he's known for he was a historian that he was known for asserting that historians should never report what they cannot verify through interviews with eyewitnesses.
What? That's what he said?
Yeah. Historians should never report what they cannot verify through interviews with eyewitnesses.
Right. So don't ever talk or teach about anything that happened before you were on the scene.
Yeah, exactly. It's too there's too much for this to be real. But
it was such a good job. Whoever did it,
absolutely.
They nailed it.
The earliest confirmed record of the legend in general was early in the year 2000. So internet getting bigger, like more people are using it, and this is like supposed to be one of the first legends to spread like wildfire through the internet, like because it was just so new, and people found a way to get this out there, and enough people talking about it to where everyone's like, no, this has to be real. I've seen it somewhere on the internet, which no one would ever do these days.
Absolutely Al Gore wouldn't let that happen on the internet that he created for us.
Yes. Once you create the child can never outgrow your power.
Exactly.
Al Gore.
Yeah, we got to quote him.
That's the power levels we're dealing with here.
Yeah, exactly. In 2006, a man named Stephen Roach claimed that he had been one of the original programmers of it, and the company developed a game with intense and cutting-edge graphics, which is what he was saying was this game. And according to him, a boy experienced epileptic seizures while playing it, and the cabinets were withdrawn from panic of a kid like going into that kind of shock. This dude Roach has no proof for any of those claims. Like he just like
right. I mean, I helped program it too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I was there as well.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And back in '84, I used to be able to throw a football clear over those mountains.
I wasn't even in my father's testicles yet.
Wait, I thought that's where the pee-pee goes.
Well, yeah.
Only the overflow.
That's true.
Pee-pee.
Oh,
they're the overflow sacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Polybius it's not been proven to exist ever. Like there's been nothing. It says while a number of mock-up cabinets and games inspired by the myth do exist, no authentic cabinets or ROM dumps have ever been documented. So like none of the information of the game has ever been given.
So there is a really quick way that we can find out whether or not this was real or fabricated by the internet.
We call Al Gore. I've got his phone number right here.
We got to go to the source.
No. Phone number.
The architect.
You know, we have the power.
Captain
Here.
Planet? Oh, you mean like us getting on the internet?
With our powers combined, the Grapes can speak this into existence.
Oh, the game Polybius?
Yes. So if we want to say that in reality Polybius did exist, and they're going to find out more about it very soon,
it's probably going to happen.
Well, I feel like if we try, it won't happen.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of those things that we just say it and we just kind of like drop it and move on, and then it happens.
Too late.
Now's
We've
my
already talked
moment.
about it.
Yep.
It's got to be organic, baby.
Well, we can't force it.
What is the use in this amazing power if we can't flex it for our own benefit once in a while?
I'm saying it was from another dimension, like, and it was like here to do an experiment on humans. Like, it was a probe. and we don't have any evidence of it because it's retreated outside of reality. Maybe to come back one day, like improve itself, and to come back to further enslave us.
As the iOS system.
Well, the information exists in the digital space. So, I mean, that kind of information could be taken anywhere.
So, basically, you're saying we had an intergalactic colonoscopy? Marcus?
Marcus, you
that was what I got exactly from what you just said.
No, you said...
Right, and I can't respond because I'm trying to figure out how.
He said probe. You said something about a probe, and he thought
retraction.
Okay.
So
now I respond? Do I respond now?
Nope, you're good.
Because I still don't know how.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You can leave it there. In 2007, there was a Polybius game for PC. It was the company's attempt to make it like the same as it existed in 1981, although it's not a thing. Like they're just making it up, going, yeah, this is probably what it was like, when no one has any idea what it was like. And also, there was a game called Polybius for PlayStation 4. And in early marketing for the PS4 game, the co-author Jeff Minter claimed to have been permitted to play the original Polybius arcade machine in a warehouse, like in England. He's like, no, I got to do that. Like, I got to play that. But that was just for the marketing, for the, like, as he was trying to come out with a game. And there's nothing in existence to say that there was any gameplay at all.
What's he up to now?
Mr. Minter? Jeff Minter?
Yeah, what's he up to now?
I don't know. Government probably took my baby away.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, he opened up that mouth and his ship got sunk because of those loose lips and sinking ships.
Exactly.
Something that I discovered on the internet, it was a list of romantic Thor relationships. And, I said what I said whenever I introduced myself today, because in one arc of the comics, and I believe it said it was the Ultimates, because some crazy stuff happens in the Ultimates comics, and I've not read all of the Ultimates. So, but Hela, who is Thor's sister, has him trapped in Hell, which is her domain, and before he's able to leave, she demands a child of him that they have to produce together.
Now, are you sure that this is in a comic book and not on a black and yellow bordered website?
Honestly,
because there's a lot of those on there like that.
What
are you doing, step bro? Oh no, my hand is caught in the dryer.
I can't get
only I can
here.
lift this hammer. I hope you're ready for the thunder.
Oh. God. I mean, Odin is the Allfather, so he was there.
He was.
What if, being the Allfather, the all canine finish was actually his, traveling through other people's bodies to impregnate?
I mean, Thor's last name is Odin's son, so I mean, honestly,
the Allfather.
It could just be operating.
The Allfather.
It could just be operating through him.
The Allfather. What part of all do you not understand?
He's everyone's daddy.
He's everyone's daddy.
My favorite theory revolving around Thor romances spawned off of my interest in this what the heck that I discovered, because also upon reading, there was a iteration of Thor called the Mighty Thor, who is Jane Foster. And Jane Foster receives the power of the god Thor by being able to lift Mjolnir, and is granted the powers of Thor. I forget what reason Thor becomes unworthy of the hammer at that point, but I don't know if that's going to be the caveat they use in the movie.
Probably for porking his sister.
I don't. Maybe. Yeah.
That would make somebody unworthy.
You're out of here.
Because the hammer's just laying there on the ground. Don't touch me.
I can't lift my hammer because she. I mean, come on.
Well, that
won't make the edit.
That's so good. If I don't know if I'm making this up. Maybe it was a dream, because I've never read that story with Jane Foster as Thor. But for some reason, I feel like maybe like she got cancer or something, and the only way for her to like be okay was if she had the power of a god. So she like got Mjolnir or something like that. Am I making that up? Is that real?
See,
at
I
all?
I do remember hearing
getting Breaking Bad
cancerous
confused.
thing. No, there's something to that. That might not be exactly all of it, but I do remember she had cancer.
Breast cancer, yeah. So Yeah, Jane Foster is given Thor's powers during her battle with breast cancer when she attempts to lift Mjolnir, which results in her becoming the mighty Thor.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But doesn't cure her cancer. Go figure. Thanks.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's just like Deadpool's, regenerative. Oh gosh, that was the right.
You
I said it right, but it felt wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah. Regenerative abilities didn't cure his cancer. He still has cancer, but his body is constantly healing through the super cancer that his mutation has now given him. But with Jane Foster inheriting the power of Thor, she gets a love interest of her own, and that's Captain America.
Wait a second.
That's America's ass.
It is. It's hers.
The newly formed America's ass.
Newly formed? What do you mean?
Sam.
Wait a second.
Gamgee?
Oh.
Yes.
Former Falcon.
Former
he's a hobbit.
Falcon, now Captain America.
So he's a hobbit.
He's not a hobbit. No,
Sam
wrong.
Gamgee.
No, wrong. Sam. We're talking about the Falcon from Marvel. Keep up here.
Oh, I don't know anything about this Falcon.
You don't.
Captain America BS. Captain Falcon Erica.
That is a very interesting relationship because when I had originally heard, because you had just mentioned in passing to me like a few days ago that, oh, I didn't know that Jane Foster Thor had a relationship with Captain America, and that threw me way off because I was like, that doesn't sound like a Steve move. It wasn't a Steve move at all.
Nope.
It was a Sam. Good for Sam.
And the thing is, it's Thor: Love and Thunder is a movie coming out next year. They're tight-lipped about it. There's not a lot out about it right now. I don't think there's a trailer because I don't watch trailers anyway. But if there was a trailer, I'm sure that I would have already scrolled past it 400 times while being on Twitter within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's how it works when you're trying not to watch a trailer. You always find the trailer. But yeah. So the other one that I found too that I thought would be interesting to see in the movies from these list of Thor relationships would make sense because there's a character coming up in the future movies in the Marvel Universe called She-Hulk.
They're going to make a She-Hulk movie?
They are making
She-Hulk.
They've made 2 of them.
Wait, really?
Yeah, starring China.
That's
really?
Yeah.
China played She-Hulk?
No.
Yeah, no, for real.
No.
It was a thing that happened.
When?
It was before she passed away, and they were porn.
I really would.
I knew they were gonna. I knew they were having to be porns.
They were. They existed. They were not good.
But
So you heard.
Jennifer Walters is one of the.
So I've heard.
Jennifer Walters is one of the strongest women in the Marvel Universe, and it isn't a surprise that Thor is attracted to her. He has always liked women who can keep up with him. She-Hulk and the God of Thunder shared a very recent romance that hasn't been fully explored. So it's still fresh meat in the comic book era right now, so it could definitely be something they could explore better on screen as well. But it's just like Lady Sif. She's strong, Valkyrie-style warrior, that's fighting alongside some of the greatest warriors. She's one of the Warriors 3. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he loves his strong women.
Do you realize how behind I am on the MCU? We've talked about this.
There's no such thing as being behind on the MCU as it is I haven't watched the MCU movies.
I saw Phase 1 up to Avengers. The first Avengers.
That's hardly any movies at all.
Tiny, that's like 5 movies.
That's not many movies.
No, it's more than that. And I've seen a couple other ones here and there.
Gotcha.
Like Doctor Strange, Guardians.
It's just I have this preconceived idea of Thor having this pure relationship with Jane, and it's hard to see he sees She-Hulk and all of a sudden, boom, there's a romance there. So something in my mind has to happen to Jane.
Well, you've got Thor is kind of fighting his natural tendencies with Jane, just because he's so attracted to her that his natural Thorness, like doing squats too many times.
Yeah,
you get that
Thorness.
get that in your thighs
and your legs. Yeah.
But he's feasting, fighting, and fornicating.
Oh, good save.
Yes, all those feasting, fighting, and fornicating is just it's what he's about. It's what he does.
Yeah,
and
just his culture.
And with Jane being his main side piece, he can't really, continue to do so. But they're not always together.
Right.
So I would Love and Thunder is going to be interesting. I want to see something like that happen, just because I don't feel like they can continue with the Jane Foster and Thor relationship and stretch that out for more movies and more movies and more movies.
Well, I mean, she's dating Anakin as well. So, like, in Anakin versus Thor...
No, that's Padme. There's
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't blame Anakin for what he's done, because they coop the boy up in Jedi training, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, now I know you've been training for all this time, and I know you've got all these hormones, but make sure you don't do anything promiscuous, because that could be bad. Why do I sound like the Rex Kwon Do guy? That was like spot on Rex Kwon Do.
What Jedi you were going for there?
You don't think that I wake up every morning next to this? Points to Yoda. Without having some awesome training underneath my belt. I lost my train of thought there on my falsities that I was saying. I was just okay. Here's the shorthand version of it. Teenager, hormones, don't fall in love. Sick 'em, Natalie Portman. That's Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Everybody,
are you an angel? So hold on, but is Natalie Portman in Love and Thunder?
yes,
So she's still doing these movies?
yes.
That's crazy. I thought she I don't know why I had the impression that she kind of just was done with them.
As long as Kat Dennings comes along with her, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine, because I feel like the Jane Foster character is kind of dry, to where the other character that I forget who Kat Dennings plays in it, because I'm an awful human being, because her character's actually really cool. But
The Valkyrie.
No,
girl.
she's like the scientist,
Okay.
like the scientist that's in.
Okay.
The witty, like, funny. She's a comedic relief kind of character with it.
Yeah, but she's not a hero though. I'm confused. What are we talking about? Love and Thunder?
Yeah, basically,
Okay, yeah.
just a little. Not even anything about Love and Thunder, because I know nothing about it besides Chris Hemsworth's going to be in Hulk size shape for it.
But
so.
you're hoping for
I'm hoping to because
some good, new, interesting
I just
romances
have a
in the
question.
MCU.
Yes, new interesting romances in the MCU that doesn't involve, Thor and his sister.
There is something else about Love and Thunder that I want to know more about, because all of the imagery for the title of the movie, like, since I think it's been the imagery for it ever since they announced the movie was going to happen, it looks like an 80s theme kind of thing. Like, it's like, isn't it? Doesn't it?
That's like Thundercats meets heavy metal.
Yeah. If you look up
The
Thor:
logo.
Love and Thunder, the logo for the title for the movie, it does look kind of Thundercatsy to me. So I don't know.
Or Voltron.
Voltron-y. So I don't know. It could be a time period thing, because for all we know, like, they can do that. I mean,
Yeah, why not?
They jump around time kind of willy-nilly.
Also, in the midst of my weird internet research, I also found a little snippet that I'm going to read real quick here. That is about another character that had an interesting relationship in the Marvel comic books in the Ultimates series. Twin siblings Petro and Wanda Maximoff, otherwise known as Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, have been around since the 60s, and they were very close. But after they were introduced into the Marvel's Ultimate Universe by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch, there was something a bit different about them. Plenty of hits were dropped that their love for one another might extend beyond the familiar, but when Jeff Loeb came along in 2008 in Ultimates 3, he decided to explicitly confirm that the pair were completely in love and had no problem with expressing that love physically.
So you mean like
Twincest.
Twincest.
Why they gotta?
They did it. It's happened.
But why'd they have to?
That's gross.
I don't know why they had to.
They felt the need.
I think that they were tiptoeing on that line with the other ones, and then he took over on the writing of that specific one, and he was like, you know what? It's got to go one of two ways. You're going to be bold, or you're going to, back off and, like, why was all this happening, and have to rewrite yourself. So maybe he just took a bold stance. He's like, you know what? Game of Thrones did it. Game of Thrones did it. They made money. So that could have been a lot of people did stuff because the
Maybe.
Simpsons did it. They just rewrote the formula a little bit.
It could have been just to bring attention to him in general. I mean,
Maybe.
DC killed Superman, like, just to get people to buy DC Comics again, and it worked. So
my
I guess-
father was actually upset
yeah.
because unlike the movies, spoiler alert for people that don't watch movies within a decade, and I still have to give spoiler alerts.
Yeah, it's nice.
He doesn't die the way he died in the comics. Him dying in the movie, they did that little levitating dirt thing, and that didn't really help anybody out, because in the comic books, it's like Superman's dead, and he stayed dead for a minute.
Yeah, they had a
Like,
few runs
like-
of comics like without him around.
And-
but yeah, so like I guess you can compare killing Superman to saying there's some
Incestuous twins.
going on in the MCU.
Wincest is wincest.
Speaking of incest,
Oh no! Yay!
My favorite of all the cest.
This is going to be a weird one.
yeah, no, so Tolkien, so the new Amazon Lord of the Rings show. Oh God, I messed up, y'all. I really messed up because I kind of had it like at just this healthy distance. I was like, yeah, they're gonna make it. It'll probably be whatever.
Oh,
And
no.
I've even seen the first image that they shared of the show. And I didn't think anything of it until I zoomed in and I saw these two trees sitting in the background. I didn't know they were there at first. It just looked like the sun setting or something. But then I zoom in and I see these two trees. And it broke my mind. I don't know how to explain it to you, but maybe the lore of those two trees might help a little bit to explain it, because I feel like I had that lore experience of these trees. But anyway, really it's just about seeing, I mean, because when I first looked at the picture, the very first picture that they shared from the show, it just looked like, kind of a matte painting and just like, oh, a nice elven city and all that. And I was like, okay, cool. But zooming in and seeing these trees in the background, it kind of blew my mind, because when I was younger, getting into Lord of the Rings, you always picture how these things, when you read them, if they're not a comic book, would look if they could, accurately portray it on screen. And I don't know, it ignited the itch in me to see them put Tolkien's Legendarium onto the screen. And I mean, it's going to be like, I think by the time it hits television, it will be the most expensive television season ever of all time. Yeah. So, yeah, I accidentally got really excited about it, and now it's going to have, like, power over me. Now it's going to, like, have the power to ruin my day or to, like, ruin my mood.
Or to make it better.
Or to make it great, right.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm much more hopeful now than I was, because I actually learned a few things now that I've got that bug, and I have to look up every single thing that we could possibly know about it.
Yeah.
So the two trees, though, so basically there's like these angelic kind of beings in Tolkien's Legendarium. They're aspects of the one god's mind that created the world, your typical kind of stuff like that. But they initially had these two lanterns, that one in the north and one in the south. One's shown with a silver light, and the one in the south shown with like a golden light. You think sun and the moon type stuff, but they're called lanterns. They're actually, I think, maybe raised up on like pillars or something. So Morgoth, the big dark lord, destroys them. So the Valar, being those angelic beings, move west, and they plant these two trees. Actually, one of them sings these two trees into existence. One of them being the golden tree, kind of Laurelin is its name, and Telperion is the silver tree's name. And they wax and wane with each other, kind of a night and day type thing, but they're really close together. But that's where all the light comes from Middle-earth, until Morgoth destroys those two. But anyway, the elves that have been known to have seen the light of these trees are like the great elves of old, the wisest. It gives them almost this otherworldly type power. It's like basically true enlightenment, So the elves actually are split up into two different factions of elves: ones who have seen the light of these trees, and the ones that had never saw the light of the trees. Because eventually the trees lose all their light because of Morgoth, the bad guy. And then the only light left from the trees were forged into these Silmarils, which, anyway, that's a whole different story.
What's a Silmaril?
It's just like a jewel.
Okay.
That
Is that like one of the things that Frodo had around his neck?
No, that's something from Galadriel. But Galadriel was known to have spent a lot of time in Lindon, which is the city where these trees were. and her hair has people always said that her hair shines like a laurelin, like the golden tree. Oh. So she was definitely one of those elves that definitely saw the trees, saw the light of the trees. So she's got that true enlightenment. She's almost a higher being for seeing these trees.
She had a scary face.
Yeah. Well, that's Cate Blanchett too, the one that we were just talking about.
She plays Hela. That's
she plays
the same
Galadriel in the trilogy.
Okay,
They've recast her in the new show, looking like she might be a pretty main character in the show, a younger version of her, and I think they've cast a pretty good young lady for that. She's been in something else. I just can't remember what it is right off the top of my head.
Was it The Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
Cate Blanchett was in that.
Oh, so it's a different actress. Sorry.
Yeah, different.
So this Amazon Lord of the Rings series, is it like a prequel type situation?
Yes. Okay. So Tolkien's Legendarium is split up into 4 ages. The first age, which would be that kind of creation age, the tree, the lanterns that turned into the trees, that would all be in the first age. Then the war, because the trees are destroyed, and so that kind of enlightenment, the only light from those, because the light's basically from the godlike beings. I know I don't want to get too convoluted here. Basically, this really awesome craftsman elf named Feanor takes some of the light from those trees and puts them into these jewels. And then there are these highly coveted, think kind of Ring of Power almost type MacGuffin for that era, the first age. But then they cast Morgoth out and they beat him. And then there's the second age, the third age, which is where we saw the Lord of the Rings takes place at the very end of the third age. The very beginning of Lord of the Rings, that prologue where Cate Blanchett narrates that prologue as Galadriel, and that was the very last days of the second age, where the last elves and men fought Sauron and actually took the ring from Sauron.
Now, what about what were the trees called that were the living trees? They started with an O, I think.
Ints.
Were they the Ints? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
The Treebeard?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the Ints.
Ints.
Mm-hmm. But look, to answer your question, Tony, you said, when does this take place? Is this a prequel? So this takes place in the second age. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of years before Lord of the Rings ever even thought.
So before Sauron rises to power?
No, actually, because Morgoth, his predecessor, because Sauron was basically Morgoth's lieutenant throughout the first age.
So if we apply Lord of the Rings to Star Wars,
yes,
he is the apprentice to the Sith Master.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, because Morgoth was a actually higher level kind of angelic figure, if you will. It's a much kind of like a fallen angel type scenario. These are mystical, spiritual beings that were made before the earth was made. But then once they fall into the earth, they fall away from, they fall into evil. So Sauron actually does, he's set to be your main villain again in the second age still. But he's going to take a much different form, because in the trilogy we see him as this all-encompassing flaming eye.
Well, he was just kind of there. Mm-hmm. He didn't do a whole lot in the Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah, my theory, I don't know if, some Tolkien scholars would probably, laugh at me for this, but in kind of my understanding of it is he's just now building his power again from his defeat back in the second age where we saw the very first of the movie.
Makes sense.
Right, so if he were to take physical form, he may almost be more susceptible to attack.
So essentially this is his first rise and fall, whereas the Lord of the Rings movies and novels is his second rise to power.
His second
and final rise to power.
Stamping it out
never
forever.
Really achieves.
Right. It's almost like ending evil forever if you can do this, Frodo.
So it's kind of like crushing the snake's head and then cutting it off.
Right. But in the second age, he actually lives with elves at times, and in some of the kingdoms of men, which the big kingdom of men in the second age would be the kingdom of Numenor, which is Tolkien's kind of Atlantis myth. So it's like this, this once great, highly technologically advanced civilization, which just corrupts and, from the inside out, and then is finally cast underneath the ocean. Yes.
So
I love how you're raising a hand.
Yeah, because it's all. I don't want to stop you.
Sorry, I'm on a roll here.
I love it. So, is there any indication of the age that this show is going to take place in before seeing those 2 trees?
Okay, yes. Here's the funny thing. I'm glad you asked that because you got me back on track. So the 2 trees are gone by the time the second age begins. Mm-hmm. So this painting of this first image of the show has fans wondering, like, well, those trees are gone in the second age. So it has to be like a flashback because one of the things I learned in investigating the show again and getting so excited for it, I'm oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Anyway, so the Tolkien estate actually has veto power on this show, which for someone like me, I was just like, thank God.
Yeah, because they'll send Danny in to take care of it if ever they have any kind of problem.
Right. Well, I mean, it's already in writing. So the First Age is actually off limits to them within reason. So it doesn't make sense from what we understand the arrangement is with the Tolkien estate, the people who are charged with protecting Tolkien's work. They're not allowed to have First Age stuff. So this must be a prologue, kind of like Cate Blanchett narrating the original trilogy's prologue. First thing you see on screen. I'm hoping that we get like a pretty extensive kind of prologue scene in this show explaining the events of the First Age and the downfall of those trees, because once those trees are corrupted by Morgoth, Sauron's predecessor, there's only one more fruit that bears from each of them, a flower from Telperion and I forget, some sort of fruit from Laurelin, and they actually turn those into the moon and the sun. So those two trees end up becoming the moon and the sun for Middle-earth.
So light came from the earth itself before the moon and the sun, from these trees and lanterns before
Think
them?
of it as more of like the light of the Valar, the godlike, angelic elements of the actual one god, Eru.
Okay.
So, it's all kind of, what do you call it? Symbolic. It's just for purity, sure. Light, wisdom,
Is the First Age in writing in books?
Yeah, so I've got a copy of my Silmarillion right here. The First Age is just called the First Age.
So the book called the Silmarillion is the before Hobbit.
It's the legend. It's the entire legendarium of Tolkien.
Oh, okay.
So the very first thing is called I'm going to butcher this. Tolkien was a linguist. He knew a lot of weird languages, a lot of awesome languages. He made up his own languages, so forgive me. But this is called Ainu Dale or Dale.
I knew him too.
Valakinta. So basically, it's the it starts out with of the beginning of days. So it's like, it's very much a creation myth, and then on into the Fourth Age. But it's told from a very removed perspective, and then they stayed there for 1,000 years before they migrated, so it's a very kind of dense, dry read if you're not a super nerd like me. I mean, some people really like those old sagas, Beowulf and things like that. Yeah. So it's very much written like this.
So the glimpse that you can get back on those trees is probably going to be a lot easier to accomplish, because in the age that they're actually filming it in, you're going to have a lot more people that were alive during the age to where the trees did exist, so you'll have people with more knowledge about them. You're going to have a lot more people like Gadriel that have the the contact with those trees and everything else. So you're gonna see more characters like her probably that have that kind of a glow to them, or have that that little touch of omnipotence, the touch of grace kind of look to them.
And so that's also kind of comes with seeing the trees, like you said, like that kind of gift of foresight that we see Elrond and Galadriel kind of exhibiting in the trilogy and the books.
But Gandalf would technically be alive during this age, because
Gandalf remembers the trees and talks to them to Pippin. Talks about them to Pippin in Return of the King, I think.
Yeah,
the book.
I don't remember.
Also, the tree that kind of flowers at the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy when Aragorn becomes king again. The White Tree of Gondor is a descendant of Telperion.
Oh, that's cool. Dane's never seen Return of the King.
That's okay.
Yeah. No, it's not.
No, I'll forget this information by the time
you must be like the evil one
I am.
This scenario.
I am. I'm of the dark.
I just wanted to raise my hand too.
I know everybody's raising their hand.
Also, so the Tree of Gondor is a descendant of one of the trees.
Yes, those trees.
Which tree? Because I couldn't.
The
get
one
the
that
name
became
straight.
the moon, the silver light tree. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Tree.
I just wanted to verify that.
Right, and so the golden trees of Lorien, where Galadriel ends up living. Because basically there's a lot more stuff going on farther west of Middle Earth. Middle Earth is just one continent in Tolkien's world. His world's called Arda, actually. But so Middle Earth is just a continent. There's the continents further west of Middle Earth.
Outer Earth.
Yeah. Westeros.
Well, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
God, those poor hobbits would get slaughtered.
It'd be bad.
I could just see the Hound coming in and just having just a belt full of
Field
hobbit,
day.
But
hobbit
then,
toes,
Hobbit pelts.
hairy hobbit toes.
but then here comes Tyrion, and he's like, "No,
hobbits are people too.
those are my people."
So going into this series, we pretty much know that the trees are going to have some big role, because for it being the first image, they have to, right?
I mean,
they're going to be gone. It'll be, like you said, it has to be a flashback because it took place in the first age.
right. They'll be gone. So they will have been turned into the sun and the moon at this point.
Right. But they'll have, how could they not play a large role in this show when the first image has them in there and they mean so much to the story, unless it is just a little Easter egg thing?
Yeah, well, but like you said, Austin, it's, I think that it'll be more of a cultural effect in this age of the story,
right?
Because of the kind of otherworldly powers that are kind of bestowed upon those who were lucky enough to live near them or to just be able to lay eyes on them in their lifetime. Cool. Are seem to be better off for it. But also, I really wish they'd give us a title for the show too, because I'm sick of calling it Lord of the Rings on Prime.
Tiny?
Yeah, I raised my hand again.
You have the floor.
So, I'm glad that you brought this up, because that explains a lot of things within the Dark Tower series. It's kind of Tolkien-esque, and so he took some of the lore and kind of incorporated it into his place. There's in-world, out-world, end-world, just as one little example.
The word you're looking for is plagiarism.
No, it's not plagiarism.
Yeah, Steve, we all know it. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, we're all cosmic turtle vomit.
Exactly.
So, who plagiarized who? Well, he never made any qualms about, taking Tolkien's work and using that to influence his.
Yeah.
He straight up tells you.
All authors build on other authors.
Exactly.
Foundations.
And he's not like Elvis, just taking credit for doing that.
Tolkien did the same thing. A lot of the stuff that he used was influenced by older myths and things.
Yeah. Like you said, they all do it. And that kind of brings me to my topic. As we read different books and watch movies and things, we always identify with a character, and that kind of fascinates me on the characters that people identify with and why they identify with them. I'm a little late to the party when it comes to the Harry Potter books, but I'm working my way through them. I'm to the Goblet of Fire, having a good time with them, and I've noticed that I identify with the character of Hagrid in a lot of different ways. He feels kind of outcast because of his heritage, and he's got this love for creatures, whether or not they're cute and fluffy or big and dangerous, and he probably shouldn't pet them, but he just wants to. And I've said for a long time, there's a good chance I'm going to die petting something that I probably shouldn't. Just like when you said there was a bear spotted around here, I wanted to find the bear and pet the bear and love the bear, because that's just me as a person. I love animals. I love to pet them and treat them like people, essentially, because I typically like them more than people. So my question to y'all is, what is the most recent character that you've identified with, and why? How did you identify with that character?
I've got multiple sources I'll have to pull from here from recent watches. So if I'm going to go from recent watches on the people that I connect to the most, I've been watching a lot of Good Girls. It's a show on Netflix about some housewives turned bank robbers. I kind of relate the most to the younger sister Annie. I relate a lot to her because she just tries her hardest, and she has her best ideas just right off the cuff. She also has her worst ideas right off the cuff. I kind of related to her a little bit, and she's had some really good ideas, and she's helped out a lot with stuff. But then she's also had theories of setting up shark attacks and things along these lines. And they're like, what are What are you thinking you're doing? Like, you're not helping.
That sounds like you.
You're not helping. There's no way that could work in reality.
Is Rey Star Wars a recent enough character for me to identify
recent
with?
to you, because Hagrid is not a recent
not recent
character
at all. Yeah, because I mean Obi-Wan is one that I really identify with as well. But I think just because you said more recent, I'll go Rey beyond that. Because she didn't want to leave where, like, even where things were difficult for her, it was still home. Like whenever she was on Jakku, like,
bless you.
Thanks. She didn't want to leave that place because she's got that tie to it of her parents may come back one day, and they never were. But she had this hope that she also knew wasn't real. But then once given the chance to go elsewhere and do bigger things for some bigger reason, fight with the resistance, she eventually took that and ran with it and found her destiny through that journey. And I don't know, and plus she's smaller than, say, a buff shirtless Kylo Ren, but she's still powerful. Like, she doesn't need giant strength or like anything like that. And I don't know. I think there's something else about her that I can't put into words that, like, I've identified with ever since I saw her on screen, because she's part of the reason why I'm obsessed with that character in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, plus she uses a bow staff for a while, and I like bow staffs. Like, I like those a lot. They're
pretty cool.
It's not like a big brutal weapon. It's a slender, like, I don't know.
It's more of a finesse.
A finesse thing. Yeah, she's a very finesse character, and I see myself in that.
Were the Centurions, or what were they called in the Star Wars galaxy there, that they were the Jedi, the guardians of the temple?
Sentinels.
The Sentinels, yes.
Yeah, Sentinels.
Those are the ones that would have really dope lightsabers, kind of that same kind of color as hers, with that yellow tint.
The yellow, almost orange, but yellow.
I think that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be an excellent one of those if they ever need a shirtless one in a in a movie.
Please.
Just saying, throwing that out there.
I mean, that man looks shirtless even when he's wearing a shirt.
And
Let's get real.
And that's the point. And thank you for it.
I'm drawing a pretty massive blank, but that doesn't mean there's nothing that I can't say. Because I feel like we identify, even with characters we don't like, obviously, like characters that we hate, we're still identifying with them in certain ways. And, like, there's all kinds of things you could identify with a lot of characters. Like, oh, they're curious about that, so am I. Like, I'm curious about that plot point, too. I hope they figure that out in the movie. But I would have to say if we're kind of going with the character that I would like to be most like, or am most like, kind of like your Hagrid.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I had to pick one of those, I would have to just go with, his name is Kvoth. It's a strange pronunciation, but his name's Kvoth, and he is a character from Patrick Rothfuss's book called The Name of the Wind, The King Killer Chronicle, which still waiting on book 3. But so he's just this, like, kid that grows up in a traveling troupe of musicians and performers that he learns magic, and he goes to a magic university. Sounds kind of like Harry Potter, but I think it's written for a little bit older of a audience than the earlier Harry Potter books were. But anyway, some of the scenes where he's learning a 7-string lute, which I just think is so cool because I play 7-string guitar and I like that a lot. So I identified there, but it's like after this tragic thing happens to him, he kind of lives alone in the woods for a while, and he just keeps playing his lute until he just breaks so many strings that he has to go somewhere to get some more. But while he's there, he's listening to nature, and he's consciously trying to play music that sounds like a leaf being blown by the wind over stones and things like that. And it's just written so beautifully. And his love and passion for music is just palpable, however you say that word.
Palpable?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that would have to be it.
So, again, you said you drew a blank, and you did good.
No, yeah.
Well, that's because I had to dig deep down for it. I had to dig down deep.
Never doubt yourself.
Yeah.
So he was a bard.
Yes, and of course he's a super genius, and he's always,
Yeah, that's why you identify with him.
Right.
Yeah, just like you.
Intelligent man.
Oh, valley of plenty.
Yeah,
Thank you.
like for like for Ray with me, one of the other weird things was like I've never identified with a female lead character before, and I think I've even had that as a topic on this podcast before. But yeah, that was another thing that I don't know. It threw me off whenever I realized like, whoa, I'm obsessed with this character because I identify with him so much, and yet it's a female character. Like I've never had that, and that opened me up to all other kinds of female lead roles or even side characters and stuff that I'm just like really I connect with those characters a lot because Ray kind of sent me into that.
Like your obsession with Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's amazing. She's amazing. She's gone through so much. Her teacher was Vader. I mean, that's she's got to live with that.
That's
and
pretty
like,
awesome.
She's got to live with thinking that there's something she could have done to stop Vader from existing, and she tried, but it was too late. But she's got to live with that.
Well, I mean, you can't make choices for other people.
No, but you can sit there and dwell on the fact that you think you still could have. Like you can be told all day there's nothing you could have done, but it's still in your head. You're going, there's something I could.
On a lighter note, when it comes to her situation, though, at least all those kids that she had to take care of, or at least like the number was cut in half.
Dadgummit. Shoot.
Yeah.
Dang it.
They got murdered by Anakin with a lightsaber. They probably
So
got
bad.
cut.
Spoilers.
In the trailer,
I'm just kidding. I've seen that.
Oh, there's no telling with you.
I've seen that. I'm just kidding.
in or not the trailer, in the first moments of The Force Awakens, whenever she is hearing the scream like from the lightsaber before she has the vision whenever she touches it, I thought the scream was coming from the kids that Anakin had slaughtered with that lightsaber.
Brutal.
Like, I thought that's what it was, but it was actually her screaming for her parents to come back to get her from Jakku. But I was like, man, that would have been awesome and horrible if she would have been hearing like the travesty that had happened with that, which that little kid's name might have been Travis. No, they've all got names. Like, that's the thing with Star Wars. Everybody's got a name. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Tangent.
One of my other favorite characters that for some reason I identify with, I do not. Okay, the comedian from Watchmen. Okay, I do not think I'm a terrible person, even though he was a terrible person.
Right.
He tried to do the right thing, but he failed in so many places, and he tended to push the boundaries and see what would happen. Like the scene where they're in Vietnam in the bar, and the lady walks in and she's saying, I'm pregnant, it's yours, and he pulls out his gun and shoots her in the face. And Dr. Manhattan's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You just murdered this woman for being pregnant. And he goes, well, you murdered her too. He's like, you could have stopped it. You could have turned, the gun into steam and the bullet into snowflakes, and you just stood there and let it happen. So he did that to prove a point, even though it was one of the most messed up things he could have done. And a lot of times it's what he's saying that I identify with more than him and his actions, if that makes any sense to anybody but me.
Yeah. I think there at the end you made it make sense. Because
Yeah.
through the
I
whole
was
thing,
getting
it's like,
concerned
Yeah,
there. For
I
a
was
second.
was getting there. It was a long trail to get to the thought.
but you got to a really good thought there at the
Yeah.
end. I just remind me not to get pregnant near you.
Or do, because I want children.
That's true.
Well,
Well, it reminds me of another one, Tyrion Lannister, for example. Like, I'm not like him. I don't have to go through like all the crazy stuff he has to go through because of the way he was born and all the pressure that's on him. But he just says the things that you kind of think to yourself, but you don't really share. But he says it in such a funny way, and so it's like it's like he's saying what you wish you could say to other people sometimes.
right. He's saying what everybody's thinking, but too afraid to say.
Exactly.
That's why you find yourself rooting for him before you even know you should.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just got that about him through
But
the
he's
whole
still kind
series.
of an a-hole too.
Oh,
He does some
absolutely.
very, very
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's awful.
crazy stuff.
He's
Yeah.
awful.
I mean,
but then
I
again,
identify with that aspect of his character because I too am an asshole.
Oh, me too. We all are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
The whole goal. The
I'm
whole
pretty
goal is to not be. It takes a lot of work to be a good person.
I'm pretty
Yeah, it
nice
does.
overall.
But you've worked hard at it, haven't you?
No,
Well, I mean,
it's just natural.
I see
No.
some darkness in
do
you,
you?
young Padawan.
yeah.
I want you to
can
call
be
it
an
out next time.
asshole and a good person because I consider myself a sweet asshole.
I feel like
Ooh.
I feel like the whole ending of Team America is about to happen.
Oh,
You know
no.
what I'm We'll
Just
leave
get
that one to your imagination or
Get some,
memory.
get some plastic water bottles and clack them together here.
Just like Team America, yeah. This episode was great. Thank you all for listening to Nerd It Through the Grapevine, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes or Podcatcher or wherever else you're at. Maybe soon to be on a radio station. Who knows where we'll end up. Go over to iTunes, even if you're not listening to us on iTunes, and put 5 stars on there. Because I identify with a 5-starred being. 4-starred would just be too little, and I wouldn't find enough in common with such a thing. So if you could do that, that would be amazing, and it would help out the podcast so much more than you really think it would, and it won't take any time at all.
And if you would like to take some time, since that wouldn't take any time at all, you can look at us up on our Instagram account, our Twitter account, and our Facebook account at Nerd Grapevine. Also, if you wanted to get on our Patreon and donate a little bit to the cause, you can get a shiny holographic Nerd It Through the Grapevine sticker and maybe unlock some future content that is going to be previously unavailable to anybody. So you're going to get some first listens if you want to donate to that first listen section. And also, we might be featured on the Asylum Radio Network coming up here pretty soon. So while you're on Facebook and Instagram, go ahead and look those guys up too. They've got a lot of stuff happening for them, and I think it'll be a fun trip. Just nobody needs to really argue or anything along the way on the trip, because that might cause a little bit of a...
Well, first you want to go to Best Friends Tiny Ink on Patreon. If you're going to find us on there, you got to look up the title of our.
I always forget the title of the Patreon
overarching kind of thing that we got going on.
So set me up again.
I'm not setting you up.
No, do it again. Put it on.
Come on, do it again. I have a real good one.
And then you're in the back seat with your sister on that trip, and she keeps crossing the line that you made on the seat, and it's causing you a little bit of...
So you yell and scream at your sister, and she punches you in the face, and your dad's like, "If you don't stop it back there, I'm gonna turn this damn podcast around." And then you end up back home because there's so much discord in the back seat. Join us on Discord. Join the Backyard Bonanza. It's great. It's wonderful. We're all there. There's a link in the description. Also, check out the podcast Homicide Worldwide. And I got to smack my mouth for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Potscast. Did it right at the end,
They are the one and only Potscast that you'll ever listen to.
I thought it was going to do great.
No, you really screwed it up.
Slap our mouths today. And then it was me because I'm a dum-dum.
Way to ruin it.
God.
Yeah.
Shout them out again. They deserve it.
Homicide Worldwide. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
Podcast. They do true crime. They're awesome. Check them out. Boy.
And we have reached that point in the episode where we ask, Tiny.
Damn it.
When life gives you crepes.
I put grapes in the crepes and then I eat them.
And those are some great grape crepes.
Great crepes, only brought to you.
Did I
by
do
Nerd
it?
Through the Grapevine. No, you didn't.
I made a pun. Is that a good one?
Was
it a good one?
Was it a
pun?
Was it a pun?
I think it was just wordplay.
I don't think you understand
that wasn't
what
a pun.
is.
No, that wasn't a pun at all. You're not breaking out into hives. It was a crepe.
Read a book.
The pun should have said we could put it all in a
football player
You could say
holds
we
the
could put a
ball
grape
and he's
in
trying
a
to
crate.
kick it down the
We could put
field.
a grape
He's the punter. He's the punter. The punter is the guy that kicks the ball.
He kicks it, and it's no good.
What are you doing?
It misses, or it could be, and then
Ole, 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 ole.